Good Monday morning and welcome to the Ninja Chickens channel. It is October 1st. I can't believe it's October already. It doesn't feel like it's October. It's part of the reason why I can't believe it. It's been cool and rainy all summer, and now all of a sudden we have this gorgeous warm weather with bright blue skies, and the leaves are starting to fall, but the weather does not feel like October. Sometimes we'll even have to light a fire in our house by the 1st of October. And we are nowhere near that right now. But I am excited about the leaves starting to fall. It feels, I don't know if you guys feel this way. It's funny because when I was younger, I didn't really like winter because it meant I didn't want to be outside as much, and it just felt a little stifling. And now it seems like, I don't know if I've just changed my outlook or how I handle winter or what, but now I look forward to it. I look forward to that quiet time. I look forward to, I don't know, hot tea and hot soup and the nourishment that you can have go along with winter. You know, you work so hard in those hotter months, whether it's gardening outdoors or pushing really hard just because it feels like that's the energy that's happening at that time of year. And then when winter comes and things are colder, people tend to turn in. And I wonder, is this the same for people in an area where the climate doesn't change so much? And if it's hot during the winter, does it still feel the same? Do you still feel like that need to turn in? I'm curious. I'd like to know. I grew up in Miami, but we left when I was 12 or 13. So I don't remember thinking that way. I wasn't really contemplating turning in for the winter and refreshing. But I'm looking forward to it. I love it when the leaves fall. And I don't know what it is. It's just kind of like Mother Earth is saying, all right, everybody, get ready for hibernation. So anyway, it's October 1st. My name's Maria. This is the Ninja Chickens channel. You can find me on Instagram as ninja.chickens. You can find me on Ravelry as Ninja Chickens. And you can find all the show notes and everything about me at ninjachickens.org. We're going to be talking today a bit about knitting and some about eco-printing and then some happenings that are going on in my world. First, I wanted to say thank you all for such a warm response to my 40th episode giveaway and knit along. I've already gotten a number of squares, which I'm super excited about. If you haven't seen the 40th episode, I talk all about what we're doing as my 40th episode giveaway. I'm asking everyone to knit a 5x5 square that will go to Evelyn of the Thistle Hollow, who's putting together a blanket for a very special woman, and potentially 2 women if we get enough squares. There's a second, there were 156 women who came forward to speak up about abuse in their lives by one specific man, and the first woman who spoke up is the woman who she's making this blanket for. However, there was a second woman who's actually a knitter who touched base with Evelyn to say thank you for what she was doing, and it would be really cool if we could make a second blanket. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but thank you so much for everything you guys have sent so far. I've gotten squares from Norway, from Colorado, from Washington State. I think I've got some coming from Germany, and a number of other places that I've heard from people. And it's just a simple knit. And in my Ravelry group, I talk about it's I think listed under the 40th episode giveaway. And there's ideas on how you can knit them. If you don't want to cast on a certain number of stitches and then find out that that's not the right gauge, you can always start from one corner and then knit out until you have the right size. So check out the thread and you can find out some of the things that people are doing. And you can also see the prizes. There's 3 prize packs: a spinner's pack, a knitter's pack, and a pack for kids, for people who either, have kids in your life that you want to share the pack with or want to give it to them. So anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you. These are awesome. This one's super cute. It has a heart in it. Can you see? It's almost like a shadow, that heart shadow. And then think there was another one in here that had hearts. No, but some of them have texture. You can do whatever you want as long as it is a 5x5 square in fingering weight superwash yarn. And I know I talk about not using superwash a lot on my podcast, but this is being sent to a woman that she doesn't know her habits of. She doesn't know if she knows anything about caring for woolens, so she wants to make sure that it's easily usable for her. So anyway, thank you all very much. This is really exciting. Oh, I'm not calling out full names of people who have sent these to me because I don't know if you want it to be announced publicly. So if you sent them, just know I'm sending my heartfelt thank you. If you do knit these, make sure that you send a way to contact you and what boxes you want to be entered for, and each square counts for one entry. Okay. So since I last saw you, we were actually today supposed to be at Edisto State Park, or Edisto. We were planning on driving down on Friday and then coming back today. We had scheduled this in April because we wanted to bring the kids down in our little camper, and they have this campsite right on the beach. Basically, you park there and you can walk over the sand dunes, and there you are. And that area is known for its loggerhead turtle hatching. And right now is kind of about the last days when you will potentially see turtle hatchings. And hoped to go down and just sleep in the RV. And we have this little, I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of silly, bright yellow 1985 RV that we purchased last year, and got the engine going and fixed it up a bit and take it out occasionally with everyone. It's not really big enough for all of us, for all four of us. So we don't use it a whole lot, or we use it and have hammocks laid out or other places where we can spread out a bit. But we really wanted to do this. And then discovered that this whole weekend was supposed to be pouring rain from basically Friday to Monday, and which would mean we'd be in our camper the whole time, because it's not a very populated state park. It's not like we could go to museums or go to other places to get out of the camper if it was pouring. And then we found out that when Hurricane Florence came through a couple weeks ago, it caused the tides to be so high on that beach that it flooded the nests, and turtles will climb up. They'll return to the places they were born, climb up the beaches, and then lay above the tide line so that the nests stay dry until hatching. Then the turtles go down to the ocean and the baby turtles swim away. If the seawater gets into those nests, it kills the baby turtles. And unfortunately, those nests were killed. So luckily it was the end of hatching season, and there were only about 5 or 10 nests left that they were still watching, and most of the others had already hatched. But that meant it was going to be pouring rain, and there would be no turtle hatching, and we'd just be all sitting staring at each other in the RV. So we decided to stay home and do stuff here. So I don't have any turtle reportings, but I am going to be going to visit Amanda and her family at the Prato Delana farm up in New Hampshire. They're in Dublin, New Hampshire now. They've moved once more and found a really beautiful place for them to settle in, and I'm super excited to go. I've not, I saw her in person again at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, but this will be the first time in over a year that we've really been able to hang out, and the first time that our sons will be able to meet. They have been Minecraft buddies for the past year and see each other through the internet, but have never met in person. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm taking just Leaf with me, and we're going to go help with the fall shearing. So I'm going to get some video and some footage to show you what that's like. And it'll be a lot of fun. I'll show that to you on the next episode. So I'll tell you a little bit more about happenings after we go through a few knitted items. So I have a couple of finished objects. Neither of these was I planning to finish, but Kaya came up to me and asked, and if you guys have been watching this podcast for a while, you know that Kaya does not usually wear a whole lot of knitwear. But earlier this year, she asked me for a sweater, a specific type of sweater, and she's been really enjoying that. But she asked me for socks last week, 2 weeks ago. And she never wears my knitted socks. I've knit her many pairs of knitted socks, and they always end up back in my drawer because they're too thick or they don't go right with her shoes. They just don't feel right. So she said, I want a pair of dark green socks. And I had a dark green yarn. It's Raven Twist's Sloan yarn in the spruce colorway, which is a sport weight yarn. So I showed it to her and said, is this going to be thin enough for you, and do you like it? And she did. So I made her these. She wanted them to be just barely calf length. And I've got all the details on my Ravelry page, but basically I cast on 10 stitches on each needle, so 20 stitches total, and then I did an every other row increase until I got to 48 stitches, since it's sport weight. I used a size 2 needle, and then went to the heel and worked a gusset and a heel flap, which I've got all the details in the Ravelry page. And I really like the way this heel works. I've always wanted to be a fan of the fish lips kiss heel, or the ones that you can easily do as like an afterthought heel, where you do it similar to the toe, but it's never deep enough for me. And when I made this design, actually, this heel, for the Sirius socks that came out a couple weeks ago. And I really like how it works up. So I did that same heel and then just went up until she said stop. And that was that. So now she has some socks and she likes them and they fit well. So we'll see if she actually wears them more than just around the house. If not, they'll be back in my drawer because luckily we have the same size foot. And you may remember that back in May, I started a pair of socks for Leaf that I planned on knitting while we were overseas and finishing, because it's just a pair of socks. They're super simple, right? But I didn't, and it's kind of one of the last things that I reach for. I don't know if it's the pattern that having to continually slip a stitch makes it feel slower, so it's not a quick, easy knit for me, or if it's the color of the yarn, because I'm just not a fan of the crazy rainbow. I'm not sure what it is, but when I finished Kaya's socks in a couple of days before I ever finished Leaf's, I knew I had to finish his socks before I could give Kaya hers. So I finished Leaf's, and here it is. And you can see it's a free pattern actually on Ravelry. It's called the Solid Stitch Lines. But I'm pretty sure when I went to look up after I was finished and I went to link to this pattern on Ravelry, I think they've got one that is one solid color, because the solid stitch line is a second color that's used for the slip stitch rows. And I'm pretty sure they actually have one that's done just like this. I just did it all in one color with using the solid stitch line, or the solid stitch lines pattern by La Maison de Saba. And I did this in a local yarn. It's called Pearls Yarn Emporium. It's at one of our yarn shops. And it's their Who's sock base. I don't remember the colorway. But Leaf chose this for me for Mother's Day because it's his kind of colors. So I wanted to make him some socks out of them. So I made a long tube, and I was planning on making them thigh highs because there's a lot of yarn in that hank that you get. But I also wanted to have them done so I could give them to him. So they're actually up to about just below the knee on him. No, that's not true. These are too short for that. They're probably mid-calf. So anyway, I did a tube and then I cut in an afterthought heel. And you can see just by looking at it how shallow the afterthought heel is. And I follow the tutorials where you basically do it like you would a toe, decreasing every other row. I even knit a couple of rows before I started the decrease, but I measured this where it should be on his foot. You're measuring straight down from the ankles where you would make the cut and start the heel. But because it's so shallow, they're too short for him. So I'm probably going to rip them out and try and figure out either another type of heel or knit even more rows before I start the decreases. So we'll see. I'm not sure how long they're actually going to fit on him because he's 9 and his feet are growing quickly. And I was hoping that I would just continue to move the foot up the leg and make them longer, but the width is not going to fit him for too long. But he chose 2 separate heel colors, and I like them. I think they turned out nicely. He's enjoying them, but I'll have to change the heel. Those are my 2 finished objects. My works in progress, I have my first for the Sirius sock cowl. So I came out with the Sirius sock pattern. It's a colorwork pattern. And thank you for the response. It's really so fun to see all the colors you guys are putting together and have them be out in the world and in different parts of the world too, because I'm learning different people from different countries are knitting them. And if you guys are designers or you've ever put something out there that other people could copy, a sewing pattern or anything that other people could create their own out of, you know what it feels like when you've put all this time and energy into it and then you see other people enjoying it and creating it and making it their own. It feels really good. So thank you so much. I'm really enjoying seeing your socks. So I started one of my own for our Sirius sock cowl. It began on September 23rd, the first day of autumn, and it's running through December 21st, the first day of winter. And this is my first one. I wanted to cast on another pair. I had this gorgeous red yarn that is a Romney dyed with madder, and I think there's Brazil wood also. I can't remember. This was a fern fiber yarn from my fern fiber days, and I tucked it to the side because I loved the color of it. It's just a really deep red. And I knit the center. All of these are scraps that I had from knitting other things. I knit the center of it and just wasn't sure about the colors, so I switched it 2 or 3 times before I decided on this. And then the farther along I got, the more I thought, I just don't like the way it looks. The white isn't popping enough. So I actually changed it up and completely changed the yarns for this top one, and I really like how it looks up here. So I don't know if I'll repeat this whole thing in my second sock or if I'll do this on both. It's going to be in my shoes anyway, so nobody's going to see it. But I may just repeat these because I like the way that pops. So there's my first one. I do have a Ravelry group thread going for the Sirius sock knit along. If you're interested, it's Sirius. If you're interested in joining, you've got lots of time and there's lots of support. But you can also go to the group and see some of the colors people are using and the chatter that's going on. I really like these socks. I know I made them, so I'm a little biased, but I feel like any color work that you're knitting where it changes up fairly quickly, but the pattern is fairly easy to memorize. It's just addictive. You're like, okay, 3 of that color, 2 of the next, and you just kind of keep on knitting, and then you get to the next row and you're like, oh, okay, well, 1 more color, and then you'd get to the next row. So I think you guys know what I mean, but I find these pretty addictive. I think I knit this in 2 days. So I'm excited to get to the next one, but I also don't want it to end too quickly. Anyway, so that is my first work in progress. And my second work in progress is a new shawl by my friend Ashley, who is Frigjar Rocker, and I'll put that below, on Instagram. And she came out with her first paid for pattern, and it's called the Barlow Road. I believe I read the description about it to you last time. I just think it looks like it's a simple shawl with a real beautiful cable. I can show it to you, can I? A real beautiful cable along the bottom. And I think it looks classy and kind of minimalist, but also one of those shawls that looks thick and squishy that you want to wrap up in the winter when it's cold. And I'm looking forward to that, so I'm wanting to wrap up in a big old shawl. I don't know if I'm going to knit it exactly as she says, because I'm knitting it in 3 colors. So what I might do is just knit until I run out of one color, start the next color and continue knitting, and just make it as big as I possibly can, and hopefully have enough to finish up the cable. If not, it's yarn that I've got from Prado de Lana, which is going to be the 3rd yarn, so I can probably get another skein while I'm up there. But I cast it on. This is the first color. This is a Navajo churro yarn, and this was a fern fiber yarn. If you guys have been with me for a while, you know this was a yarn from Rusted Earth Farm, which is right down the road from here, and I went out there one week, I guess it was a 1.5 years ago, and helped with a group of ladies shear this whole flock because no one else could come out and help shear them, and they were desperately in need of shearing. And it was an amazing adventure. And I talk about it in one of my podcasts. I'll try and find it and link it below so you guys can watch it if you want. But this yarn is really special to me because I was part of the shearing. I know the sheep it came from. I had my hands in their wool. And so wrapping myself up in this is, I don't know, it just makes it feel even better. So this is the start, and I've got lots left of that. So Navajo Churro is a rare breed, which again, it makes it even more special. And then the other two colors I have are two Prado de Lana colors. So it's going to be like this. I'm going to start with the lightest and then go to the gray and then kind of this darker brown gray. I think that's going to be gorgeous. I think it's going to be really pretty. And those two from Prado de Lana are Romney. So again, it's going to be a small farm, heritage breed shawl, which I like. And that is my other work in progress right now. Other things I've been up to are a little bit of dyeing. I think I mentioned to you last time that my neighbors have just moved out of our little cabin that we have on our property. We built this tiny little cabin in 3 weeks. When we first moved out on the land, there was nothing on this land. It was a big mud puddle because a lot of the people in the local neighborhood had been riding four-wheelers, three-wheelers, dirt bikes, all kinds of stuff up here and around the trails. They kept the trails clear, which was kind of cool, but this area, the flat area down below, was mud deep enough that you could sink up to your knees. And all kinds of trash from big burn piles that they'd have. And so we cleaned a lot of it up and just set one small spot where we could make a cabin really quickly just so we could get onto the land and build the main house. So it didn't have electricity. It didn't have plumbing. We got electricity after about 6 months. But over the years, we've fixed it up a little more and fixed it up a little more and had some friends live in there and they'd do, rent it in exchange for a little yard work or childcare or something like that. But the couple that were living in there for the last few years has just moved out, and we're going to convert it into my studio, and I'm really excited about that. But part of that is it's going to take a little time away from my making so we can paint and put in new windows and do some construction and get it so that it is rodent proof and moth proof and I can work there in the winter and stuff like that. So I haven't been doing a whole lot of crafting. Well, sorry, I've been doing a good bit of knitting at night, but I haven't been doing a whole lot of dyeing because I'm looking forward to spreading out in that space. But I did do a few really large silks that I wanted to eco-print. I wanted to have a few really big ones to wrap up in for the Not Everyone Goes to Rhinebeck Virtual Festival. And that's the weekend of Rhinebeck, the 20th and 21st. I'll have info about it in the show notes if you're interested. So these are 100% silk, 22 inch by 90 inch, and they're 19.5 millimeters, so they're really thick. And this one was dyed first with goldenrod and then with indigo. And I love it. I love the color. I love how it all turned out. Let me see if I can, I don't know how well the camera will pick up how the eucalyptus looks on here, but it's almost golden, the way it shines through. So I'll have this one. This one is also goldenrod and eucalyptus, but not as much goldenrod. I'm sorry, goldenrod and indigo. More indigo than goldenrod. It was a lighter color in the beginning and just eucalyptus. So it goes from the smallest eucalyptus leaves to larger round ones and then dropping into the longer ones. And you can see really well on here how it looks almost neon. I love it. I love how they turned out. So there's that. And you can see how big they are. They're really big silks. And then the last one is just goldenrod and maple. And what I wanted to do was make it seem like the leaves were falling off a tree and into a pile. So this one it starts with just the falling leaves. Let's see if I put it over my shoulder, that might be easier. And then the leaves get a little thicker and a little thicker until you get to the bottom and you have your pile of leaves. And all it is maple. And here's the other side. So it totally depended on what tree I got them from, how much tannin they had in them, if they were dried or fresh. They made completely different looking prints. So here you can see there's the brownish one is the back or the underside of the leaf, and the lighter one is the top side. Isn't that gorgeous? And some of them at the end where it was attached to the tree, so at the end of the stem, made these white like pops of color, or not color. It's like it got rid of the color in that spot. They're so beautiful. So there we go. I'll have a few of those, not too many, because those take a while to print. But I think they're absolutely beautiful. And I'm really excited. I know I've said this. I'm so excited to have a big space where I can spread out. We have space in our house, but it's just, the space is common space. So I take all my stuff out, set it all out, which takes a while to prepare it all, and then I have to put it all away when I'm done. Whereas in the studio, I can set it up, put it out, keep it out. And if I want to do 1 or 2 silks a day, instead of having to do 20 or 30 at a time, or maximize the amount of time I have to do things, it just makes it flow better because everything's out, it's available. It'll be easier to access. So, yes. Another thing I've been working on related to the eco printing is, I've told you in the last few episodes, I'm working with the EcoView fiber mill to come up with, they've already created for me a locally created and US sourced merino and tencel, which is a eucalyptus fiber sock yarn that has a high twist, and it's gorgeous. It's really nice. It feels great. It's good to work with. It feels tough enough but still soft. But we were having a hard time coming up with the sock blank aspect of it because I was wanting to do some printing on it. And they were having a hard time with the machine that they had at the mill and creating it in an efficient way that was worth their time. We talked to some local people who weren't able to get what we wanted. I could send it off to the friend of mine who was making the sock blanks that I already have made, but that would just kind of defeat the purpose of trying to make something local with a smaller footprint, to make them here, then send them to her state and then have them sent back. It increased the price. It also increased our carbon footprint. So I got in touch with a few people that I know of that do sock blank knitting. So you use a knitting machine. Basically, you hook it up to the machine, you run the thing back and forth, and it quickly knits it for you. It's not that someone's hand knitting everything. And one of the local friends that I have, who was actually the woman who let me borrow my first spinning wheel, also had a bunch of knitting machines. And I went over to chat with her about it and if it would be something worthwhile for me to take on or to source out to my daughter who wants a job. And she said, well, here's what it would do. Here's about how long it would take you when you got used to it. And I happen to have one that you can borrow for right now to see if you like it. So I have a knitting machine right now. I never thought I would want one. I love the process of, though I'm a product knitter, I still really enjoy the process of knitting and my hands being in the yarn, holding the needles. I really like that process. When I think about trying to figure out working an electronic knitting machine with all its bells and whistles and all those little needles, my brain goes, I don't want to do it. It's like trying to figure out a computer program. I'm like, here, honey, I pass it to my husband. I don't even want to think about it. My brain does not have space for that kind of thing. So thinking about taking on a knitting machine, I just really didn't want to. When I talked with my friend Lori about it, she's like, you don't even have to turn it on to do what you want to do. You need nothing to do with the electric components of it or the computerized stuff. All you need to do is a stockinette stitch. She showed me how to do it and it was fairly simple. So I know that I have the capability, if I want to make more detailed things on this machine. But if I don't want to, I don't have to. So here's what I've learned so far. This is the last one that I did. I've done a couple of them. It was just a heavy fingering weight yarn. And you can tell from that line in the middle, I've done 2 gauges on here. So this was a looser gauge and this was a tighter gauge, just to see how it worked. I started off with a cast on that is kind of like a sealed cast on. I think they called it a weaving brush or weaving cast on, so it can't come undone. And then did the cast off running a piece of yarn through it. So this part won't come undone until you pull this piece of yarn out. I got a lot of help from Sandy, who is the woman who has been making my sock blanks until now. Super sweet and was so helpful. And I said, I know you do this as a business, so feel free to say, I'm not telling you anything. It's my secret how I do this. She was like, here it all is, and just wrote paragraphs of here's exactly what I do for your sock blanks. Really, really kind of her. So I've been trying to work that out, and it's working. So I'm going to get a couple of skeins of the exact yarn that I want to use from EcoView and put those on the knitting machine, see how it works. And if so, I will be making my own sock blanks and have the option to use whatever yarn I want. I'll definitely be using the yarn that we create from EcoView. But there's potential there to use other fingering, lace, or sport weight yarns. And the cool thing in that is I don't know anyone else who makes sock blanks that don't have nylon or superwash. Maybe there are, but I haven't seen any. And if I just want to, make a self-striping yarn for myself for socks, I could do that in whatever yarn I want. And I discovered I could knit at the right gauge 64 stitches of a blank, do a whole skein's worth, and then seam up the edge and have a sock tube and make socks on the knitting machine. So we'll see. I am excited. I think it's going to be a really good potential, especially once I have the space to set up. I can put it on a table in the corner. Kaya can hang out with me, make some sock blanks, have a little job, make some money. So yes, a lot of things have been happening lately. There's a few other things. Thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate it. I feel like it's just checking off the list of all the things that are going on, but it's been a busy couple of weeks. Busy personally and busy in the world. And if I'm not mentioning anything about what's been going on in the government and all the things that have been happening these last couple of weeks, it's simply because I need, for my own sanity, to keep this as my happy place. The last few weeks have made me very angry and brought up a lot of things that I didn't want to relive. And so I'm going to keep that elsewhere. But know that my not mentioning it is not about dismissing it in any way. So happy place, here we are. We're going to go back there. Speaking of happy place, so it's October 1st. Last time, I think I told you guys about my kids putting a bunch of my yarn in baggies to open up every month, or whichever comes first, either the first of every month or when I finished the project from the last baggie I opened. So I opened my first bag last time, and that's what I'm doing the Gardens of Giverny, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, shawl out of. I haven't worked on it a whole lot recently. It's one that I have to think about because there's like 6 rows of stockinette or garter, and then you get to this long lace batch, and then 6 more rows, and then this long lace, and I haven't memorized the lace yet, so I haven't worked on it a bunch because I need to be able to think. But since it's October 1st, that means it's time to open the next bag. So here it is. They put them in my packing bags, but then they just close them with tape so I can easily reuse these bags. Okay, cover your ears. Okay, so it's open. This one is big. I can tell there's 2 skeins. Some of them they thought would go good together, so they put them in together. Ooh, I've been wanting to use this one for a while. I just didn't know what to do with it because it's so beautiful. So they picked these 2 colors, which I love together. However, This is a single spun, and this is a 3-ply, I believe. I think they're the same weight. So this is a DK. This one is Mrs. Babs Kauea DK weight yarn. It's 100% wool. And this is Wild in the Woods natural white 100% Canadian wool. And I think this is a fingering weight. So I don't know how well they will go together. If you happen to know of a pattern that works with something like this, a DK and a fingering, let me know, because the colors are gorgeous together. But not only are they 2 different plies, but they're also 2 different weights. So I'm going to have to get creative, and maybe I don't put them together. Maybe I create 2 different things out of them. But this yarn was sent to me by Wild in the Woods. She's from Canada, and I just think it's beautiful. No, I'm sorry. It was sent to me, I think this was sent to me by Anna of Dunkelgrün. Oh, it smells sheepy. And it's just beautiful. So yeah, I've had it in my stash kind of as one of my little treasures that I didn't know what to do with that was special enough. So if you have a favorite pattern for a single ply, I mean, I can mix this with some other yarn too. It's a fingering weight yarn, so it doesn't have to be on its own. But it feels like one of those, you know, super special farm yarns. You're not going to get another thing that's like this. It's not like I could get 20 skeins. So I want to do something special with it. But yeah, so this is what the kids chose for me for this month. So we'll see what I create. I'm having a lot of fun with that. It's funny. I feel like I'm actually knitting more now that I have this idea of secret stash. Some of the yarn's been in my stash for years and I haven't knit with it, but now that it's hidden and reappearing to me, I am more excited about it. It's actually encouraged me to knit with a lot of other stash, like the socks that I did for Leaf and for Kaya were both done out of stash yarn, and the Barlow Road shawl, all 3 of those were stash yarn. I feel like there was something else recently that I did out of stash yarn. So I'm using it up. Oh, the Sirius socks. I haven't bought any new yarn in a while, which feels good. Not that I don't want to spend money on yarn, but it feels good to work through the stash and to see these things make creations. So I think that's it as far as knitting and dyeing. I did want to tell you a few more things that are happening over the next month. On October 20th from 12 to 4, Echoview Fiber Mill up in Weaverville, not far from me, and I are putting on a fall festival. It's going to be a small gathering with bobbing for apples and apple cider donuts and apple cider tea. It's the same weekend as Rhinebeck. For all those people that can't get up to Rhinebeck, we figured along with the virtual festival, we'd actually do something local where people can get together. We're going to have a knit along starting that day, either knitting. So Echoview has a new DK weight yarn coming out. It's a really beautiful yarn and some really lovely colors that go together well in color work. So we're going to cast on either a pair of DK weight mittens that Ellie of Skandir Knits has created, her Selba mittens, or a cowl by Christina Danai, who has created some beautiful patterns for Echoview from Echoview yarns. So if you're around in the area and you want to join, they have it up on their website, so you can see all the details. It's $10, but that covers a raffle ticket, the tea, the donuts, bobbing for apples, all the games, all the stuff that we're doing. And yeah, so October 20th, go to the Echoview website, and I'll post that below so you can see the details. Then the next weekend after that is SAF, the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair. So if any of you guys are coming, please let me know. It's a really big festival for down in this area. There are many, many vendors, a ton of different classes, and it's usually beautiful weather. The leaves are usually at their peak on that weekend. So I would love to know if you're going to go. I'm definitely going. I'm not sure which day or days. It's usually Friday through Sunday, though some of the classes begin earlier. and they have a ton of workshops and classes on their website. So that I think is saffsite.org. I'll link that again also so you can see it. And hopefully I will see some of you guys there. Let me know if you're coming. And then the last but not least is I'm doing another eco printing class locally. I'm going to be doing it through Local Cloth, which is a fiber and crafting nonprofit in this area that puts on amazing workshops and groups and fabulous education related to fiber dyeing craft. And I'll have that link right here so you can see it. But we're going to be working on silks as well as cotton napkins. So you can create some gifts for friends or family if you want, or keep them all for yourselves. But we will talk about all kinds of eco-printing techniques during that day and spend the whole day together. So check that link out if you're interested in a class. I think that's it. Lots of crazy going on. So as you can see, I'm in the treehouse again. I don't think I mentioned that. Hopefully it's not been too loud. The frogs are all grown up and much quieter now, so we don't hear them too much. And other than some barking, oh, look, there's a cat. Other than some barking, hopefully you haven't heard a whole lot beside nature today in this episode. I like being up in the treehouse. The kids don't use it at all. My daughter says that it needs to have screens because of the bugs, because your treehouse should be screened in and air conditioned. I don't know. She does have pretty strong reactions to bug bites, but I'm like, guys, it's a treehouse. I mean, here's the tree. I'm sitting right next to it. We're not putting screens on the treehouse. And so my son likes to come out here, but he doesn't like to come out by himself. He would prefer to come out with friends, and he hasn't had a lot of friends over recently. We've been doing so much traveling and running back and forth and trying to figure out school stuff. And so I'm up here, and I'm thinking I should clean this thing out, put up a hammock, bring out a little teapot, and make this a little cozy spot for me. This right here where I'm sitting is kind of the front porch, and then the rest, it's not huge by any means. I don't even think a hammock would fit in here. But there's 2 little rooms and a little bitty hallway and a secret trap door that goes into the floor. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I hope you guys are having an amazing first couple of weeks of October. I am super excited to be heading to New Hampshire. I know I'm going to be going to the Harrisville Mill. I just got a bunch of yarn for my next design for that, so I'm going to go get to see the store and meet them. I'm also going to be taking a tour of Green Mountain Spinnery, which is not far from where my friend Amanda lives in Vermont. And I'm super excited about that. So it's going to be a very woolly next episode. I hope you all look forward to it and have a fabulous couple of weeks. See you guys soon.